on YouTube. Okay, all good now. Cool, cool, cool. How's it going with the CSS? Did you had some fun working with it? Cool. I find it sort of, CSS, it's a bit harder because of this. Exactly. You have so many options. So, my suggestion is that you start a bit, take it easy, and then you start with some of the basics, and then you learn like the fundamentals, and then you're going to increasing you go to more advanced levels and so on. So don't be too hard on yourself. Let's start with what we have, and step by step you're going to build more confidence and adding more different properties and different things and so on. So yeah, the background of my title do not cover the width of the page. You can use the tech support so we can take a look at it and just post and say exactly what's going on so we know where to look, and then we can give you some feedback so you can fix it. But maybe there's a container inside of the other container and the width it's not 100%. Things like this can happen. Okay. Today we have a special guest. He will be here pretty soon. Give me a second. Ty's just walking around. He has a few things to tell you. Hi, Ty. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so nice to meet you, everyone. I'm the technical manager at CodeUp, and I helped to develop this workshop. I'm really glad to see all the work we have done in these 2 days. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the process to the prize. And I believe that Sophia already told you a little bit about that. So I will just remind you what you need to do after today. After you finish your code, the only thing you need to do is first to submit on the channel, on the 3 days coding channel, the final result of your code. And as well, additionally to this, you need to go to your LinkedIn, hashtag us or hashtag CodeUp, and then we will evaluate so 80% will be on the code and on the design, and this will be internally, our team will evaluate, and the 20% will be for the votes on LinkedIn. Okay, so basically that's it. You have up until Monday to have this done. The prizes, so we have 3 prizes, and who win can choose between the 3 of them. Okay. So the first one is 101 with our lead full stack instructor, Germinal. He has many years of experience. And the reason for having this is to have insights from someone already in the field to see if you can create, for example, a personalized study plan for you to learn. The second one, the second option is with our CEO, and she can talk about the bootcamp options, and how was her, actually she's a data scientist, so how was her experience in the data science. She worked in Adream, so she can talk about this as well. And last but not least, we have our career coach, Anne-Marie. She also comes from tech, so she was a tech lead in a big company here in Barcelona, and she decided to be a career coach for people that are just getting in tech field. So I think she's very valuable if you want to understand how you can manage your career from now on. If you want more to talk about imposter syndrome, this kind of things, so this person is her. And I personally already had sessions with her. I really like her, and German and Katrina as well. So this is the process. If you have any questions, just let us know on the channel. We are there 24/7. Just text us. And I believe that's it. Sophia, if I forgot something, let me know.
No, I think that was all. Maybe we can also share the hashtag on the 3-day code challenge, the hashtag that they should use on LinkedIn. We're gonna do this so it's a bit easier for you. And that's it. I guess that was it. Thanks, Ty.
No problem. I will share this in the chat, okay? And as well, I will send to you to the 3 days coding challenge the information, so everything's clear. Okay, now I'll shut up and I will let you lead, Sophia. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the last day.
Thanks.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
for joining. Bye bye. Okay, so cool, exciting things. And obviously, you can choose any of the prices. They're quite cool. It's nice to have some guidance, regardless of what is the thing that you're gonna choose from. So let's go back to our coding challenge. Today, I'm just going to do a quick recap from yesterday's CSS class. And then, like I said, today we're going to talk about Bootstrap. So what is Bootstrap? How can we add it to our project? We're going to talk about Bootstrap utilities. Obviously, there's no time to cover everything, just like we have no time to cover everything that CSS has. So we're going to cover a few things on Bootstrap, like the utilities, how to create an element. And as always, we're going to do some coding, hands-on coding. And then I open for Q&A. I mean, the Q&A is always open, so you know the drill, you know how it works. So Bootstrap, what is Bootstrap? So basically, Bootstrap, it's a collection of CSS classes with standard styles already. So it's like, you know that yesterday we had like a part of our code with HTML and a part of our code with the CSS. And all the styles of the CSS, we were connecting them with the selectors, for example, the classes, and they would be applied. Imagine the Bootstrap as a huge CSS file with preset class names that you can just use it. So if you add Bootstrap to your project, you can use any of the styles that the CSS file from Bootstrap has. All you need to do is pass the correct class to your component, and then that style will be applied. So it's some classes pre-made for you that you can use it. And this is super handy, and it's really, really easy. And if you just start learning CSS, it can be like really, really good to design your websites in a faster way. And to be honest, it also helped me a bit to understand more CSS using Bootstrap. So the second thing that it's most important, so Bootstrap was created initially by Twitter, not X, Twitter, and because it was a few years ago. And then the idea was that the main thing that they realized, the developers from Twitter, they realized that most of the users would switch from desktops to mobile or smaller devices, smaller screens, most of the time, which is very true. So they developed Bootstrap to be mobile first, which means the default behavior of Bootstrap is to fit well in small screens. And the second thing is that it is designed in that it's made to create responsive websites. So it will have one behavior in a small screen and maybe a different behavior in a bigger screen. So if in your mobile, let's say you have a collection of cards or images, you have one image per row, and maybe in your desktop, it wouldn't make sense having one image per row. You would like to see like maybe 4 images per row. This is what we call responsive. So you change the behavior of your elements depending on the size of your screen. And Bootstrap, it's amazing for this because it do a lot of things for us. A lot of the hard and boring things, Bootstrap can handle for us. The main aspects of Bootstrap are the components. I'm going to show you a few of them. We have the buttons, the form, the menus. We have some layout things like the containers to wrap things. And grid, yesterday I've mentioned that I quite like the grid system from Bootstrap. And then we have the utilities like margin, padding, alignment. We saw this yesterday, how to add this with plain CSS, but you can also add this with Bootstrap. And you can use both. You can use a few things from Bootstrap and a few things from like creating your own CSS. This is not an issue. You can use both. So let me just quickly show you. Whoops. Too many. This is what I want to show you. Let me send you this. This is the website. So it's just quick explanation. Build fast, responsive sites with Bootstrap. It's just a front-end toolkit that you can customize your CSS, basically. When you go to this page, you just come here to the docs. Obviously, if you have those classes pre-created for you, you need to know them. You need to know, okay, which class then should I use? And then you have the documentation. And Bootstrap documentation, it's quite nice. They are, it's well written, easy to find things. You have some examples. It's super cool. So here in the introduction, you have the get started with Bootstrap. And I'm going to go back to this when we have to add Bootstrap to our project. But just so you can see it, the easiest way is to go into the intro section, the one that I just showed you. And there are 2 lines of code that we need to copy and paste. So basically, there's one CSS link, which is this one here, and one JavaScript link. So it's a script. And this we're going to paste in our HTML. So if you take a look here, we have this link that is the thing we need to copy. Just copy this and paste in our HTML document. I will show you where. And also the script tag. This one, it's not mandatory. Remember that I've mentioned in the first lecture that JavaScript is responsible for some interactions that you can have, that you can create. So Bootstrap, for some of the things that Bootstrap add, it does use some JavaScript code behind the scene. So you would also need to add this. The most common ones, it's not necessary, but actually today we're going to use one that we're going to need the script. So that's basically it. We just copy and paste this on our project, and then we can start using Bootstrap. It's simple as that. So this will import all of the collection, the entire collection of CSS, of Bootstrap classes that we can start using. Let me, I'm going to go back to this. Well, let me show you this. So I'm going to open here in Bootstrap just so you can understand a bit better. This is a class that we would add in using Bootstrap. Every class in Bootstrap adds some CSS behind the scene. Bootstrap, it's CSS. It's just that it's not you writing the CSS code like what we did yesterday. So remember that in CSS, we have the selector, and then we use the curly braces, and then we pass the combination of the properties, colon, value, semicolon. So that's the only difference. You don't need to create this bit of it. You just need to use the correct selector. So for example, I'm going to search for padding, which is the first example that I have in the slides. And here you have some explanations. So if you want to use some classes that set the padding, you're just going to use P. And then if you want to be more specific, remember that I've mentioned that you can have padding top, bottom, right, or left. You can also say this with Bootstrap. So you can write PT for padding top, or PB for padding bottom, and so on, or just P for all over. And then you can choose some sizes. So for example, 0, it's to eliminate the margin or the padding. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is not 5 pixels. They do some calculation behind the scenes. So for example, this would be this value in this variable spacer that it doesn't matter. We don't need to worry about this. I mean, it just does some calculation for you. Question: when you're building a website using Bootstrap, how often do you refer to the documentation? Very often. I mean, to be completely honest, there are certain things that I already know by heart. So some classes that I already know, But the first one that I was building, I would go to the documentation all the time, to be honest, until you get used to it. Eventually, you're gonna remember that P2, it's padding all over with a value of whatever the value that they have for 2. So you get used to, you start learning all of this, and maybe you're gonna reference the documentation a bit less as you go. But other than this, quite often. Dun, 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 dun. And this is how you use it, okay? This is how you would add to an element. That's it. So you imagine that you have a div, and you want to give the padding, some padding to it. So to write this, all you need to do is do class and pass this value p-2. This is the syntax for adding some padding to the 4 sides of this element. That's all. I mean, this is something else. Okay, I'm not going to cover this yet. This is other Bootstrap classes, but this is what you're doing. This is all that it needs. And then behind the scene, this will select this div for you. It will add it would create the selector, it will open the curly braces, and it will set the padding to be a specific number of pixels. So basically, you would have this in Bootstrap and this in CSS. This is what it would be added in the CSS. Or you could have the text dark, which is to change the color of your text. And behind the scene, you're going to change the color property, because we saw it yesterday that the color changes the text, the color of the text. So we would change the color to set to be this specific value. Or if you do BG dash danger, it means that you are changing the background color to be this red color. And the same thing for the border, for example, border info. You would add a border that it's 1 pixel, solid, and this. So behind the scene, that's always a CSS. So it's not something different. It's just that it's not being written by you. Question: what do you prefer, Bootstrap or Tailwind? To be completely honest, so there are 2 different things, in my opinion. So Bootstrap, it's very opinionated. So obviously you can customize, you can change the default colors, you can do all this. But for me, Bootstrap, it's really good if you're starting and with little CSS knowledge, because it's opinionated, it do a lot of things for you until you get used to that property and understand that. And also, I honestly find the grid system of Bootstrap brilliant. It's really good. I love it. Now, as for Tailwind, I feel that I have more flexibility and I have more room to work and to create things with Tailwind. However, Tailwind require a bit more knowledge on CSS. So it depends on what you need. How do you change the default value for utilities? You need to create a file for this in Bootstrap and then rewrite the default values. There is a session in the documentation that teaches you how to do this. I'm not going to cover this today because this is a bit more advanced. We're going to work with the default values that Bootstrap provides. But if it's something just small, you can just overwrite, you can just create with CSS. If it's something small, just use CSS instead of Bootstrap. But I can show you in the documentation later on where to find this. Cool. Now, how to create an element with Bootstrap. Let's take a look at the components. I'm going to go here in the left side. You're going to see that you have utilities, which is quite nice, the helpers. Then you have the components. And by the way, let me see if I have it. There you go. Here in this customize section, you can see your options, how you can change things. So everything is documented. So if you want to change anything, the default values, you would go to this customize section here. But what I want to show you first is the components. So let me see which one we have here. I'm going to start with the button because I think it's quite easy to understand. And when you create a button, there is a button tag in HTML. I haven't showed you this yet, but I'm going to show you real quick. which is not very nice. To be honest, the design is it's quite bad. But if you want to use Bootstrap, you have to pass two things. If you just pass there is a default class from button. So this is the tag in HTML, okay? Ignore the class for a second. You just have the button tag, and that's it. And in between the opening and the closing tag, you pass whatever it's going to be written in your button. And in Bootstrap, to create a button, you need to first pass a button class, which is a base class. So for all of them, you're going to use BTN. That means, please make this to be a button. It's the default class. And then the second class that you're going to pass, it will decide the variants. So you can choose from them. Each of them serving its own semantic purposes. For example, in Bootstrap, the primary action is this blue color. The secondary is this gray. So you have the green for the success, the red for the danger, one for the info, and so on. So it's more related to the action, the choice of colors. But if I want to get this blue button, for example, I would need to pass the BTN, which is the base class for the button, and then another class. So since it's another class, I'm just going to give a space. And yes, before you ask, you can give as many classes as you want for an element, as long as they are wrapped in the same quotes, and you give some space. So you pass the BTN, and then you're going to pass the name of the variant. So if you want the blue, it will be BTN primary. And this is what I really like about Bootstrap. It will give you the result, and then it will give you the code to get that result. All that you need to do is literally copy and paste. But my suggestion is also that you tweak a thing or two, remove one class, see what happens if you remove that class. So you also get used and understand a bit more about how to create a component, what the class in Bootstrap is doing, and so on. The other one that I love it's the card. It's super nice, super easy to use. This is an example of a card. Nowadays in the designs, it's really, really common to see cards. The shape, the idea of a card, it's really common. I know if you open Airbnb, for example, you're going to see that you have a bunch of cards with the image of the place, maybe some informations like the price per day or the ratings or something like this. But you can see that the design is built with small cards. So this is a thing. And it really, I mean, it's quite nice to add to the design. So if you want, for example, here you're always going to have some information. Okay, so if you want to read the documentation, which is something really good for if you want to be a developer, you're going to read documentation. So there's always an about that will explain you a bit about this component, and then some examples. And here on the right side, this sidebar here on the right, it will give you some sections on this page. So if you want to take a look at, I don't know, image caps, image overlays, horizontal cards, you can also use this navigation sidebar here on the right. Now, for example, if I want to create this card, here I have exactly everything that I need. I even have a button to copy. If I copy this, it's copied. I just need to paste. And then you're going to see that you have one main container wrapping everything. And this main container has a class card. And then they are also giving width, a default width. And by the way, you can add inline styles. So there is an attribute that you can pass to HTML elements called style. And then in between the quotes, you're going to pass the property of CSS and the value. So this is possible to do. You can do straight away in the HTML component. So at some examples in Bootstrap, you're going to find this. I prefer to do like I prefer to do using the CSS file for this, but just so you know that this is a thing, this exists. So you might come across with this syntax at some point, like now. So this is the first thing. You need to wrap everything in this card, and then in this card container. And then you have an image, which is this image here at the top. And then you need to give it this class, card-img-top. You need to use exactly the same class that Bootstrap is providing, because this is the selector that it's connected with the CSS that it's pre-written for you. So if you use a different class, the selector will be different, the style will not be applied. And then you have yet another div here, which is the body of the card. And inside of this body, you have this H5, one paragraph, and a link. And for the link, we're giving this BTN primary, which is the classes that we have to create a button. So even though this is a link, it will work and I will have the same expected result. I mean, the same result as if this was a button. So yeah, this is exactly how the component would look like. If you copy this, which is the same thing that I just showed you, you can create the card. The buttons I already showed you as well. So this is exactly the same result. So this is like, if you go to Bootstrap page, take a look, maybe copy more things and paste so you can see the result. And I mean, that's it. I'm going to go back and forward to the documentation so we can see more things and we can play around with the things in Bootstrap. So the very first thing that we need to do is I'm going to review what we have here real quick. So yesterday we did all of this styling. We removed the default margin. We talk about all the selectors, the regular selectors. If it's a class, we're going to use a dot. We can use multiple selector, like a cascading selector, for example, selecting the img tag that it's a child of the element with the class about me. We saw all these properties. We saw how to add background image. We control the padding, the margin. We make our image to be fixed, our background image to be fixed, and so on. Can you send again your CodePen link, please? Yeah, sure. Here you go. Okay, so if you have any questions regarding yesterday lecture, please let me know. But today I'm going to focus again on the HTML code. The very first thing that we need to do is to add Bootstrap to our project. Okay, so to do this, the very first thing that I'm going to do is go here to the getting started in the introduction. And remember that I would just need to copy the links. So I'm just going to copy the links. Very first thing, Control C. And I'm going to go back here. You're going to see that the syntax here, you have these other tags, doc type, HTML, head, meta, body. This is different because, like I said, CodePen, it's handling all of this for us. Okay, so that's why you don't have these other tags. CodePen is adding it behind the scene. Yesterday, I was struggling to get styling to take effect, and I guess what it was. Tell me, Bianca. I thought this, you see, there are some things in CSS that it's so tricky because it's one small letter can change it all. This is my nightmare with the width and height because I always swap the T and the H and it doesn't, I mean, it just doesn't work. But it's not that tells you. Sometimes if you're writing code in JavaScript, it will tell you specifically where the problem is, but CSS will not say, color with the U does not exist. It's just not going to work. And that's it. You need to write without the U. So I'm glad that you find out this. But yeah, this is one of the things that sometimes take a lot of time. You spend a lot of time debugging it, but you never forget this again. I couldn't make the background to be fixed. The code for the background to be fixed is this one here. Make sure that you're going to add this to the intro container, just this one here, background attachment, make sure the syntax is correct. So background attachment with a double T and so on. I just shared mine, you can copy and paste and try again. Yeah, and make sure it's in the container, the outer container. Okay, so I copied the first one. I'm gonna paste this here at the top and I'm gonna add the comment so you know. I don't know if this shortcut works. No, it doesn't. I'm gonna ignore some code. So the syntax to comment it out some codes in HTML is this one. Yes. So you do the angle brackets, exclamation mark, dash, dash, whatever it's in between the two dashes here, it will be ignored. I'm just gonna add the comment here, Bootstrap. CSS, just so you know. So I'm gonna paste this link. This is for the CSS, and this one is for JavaScript. That I'm also gonna copy is the script tag. And I'm gonna paste it here. And actually, I kind of can see that something is happening because Bootstrap also removes some default things, and I will need to fix this, okay? There are certain things that right now it's bothering me. For example, the padding that I had here, this color, it's awful. I'm gonna change this. But the color that I had here, the padding that I had here, it's gone. And the size of my text, it's also changed. So I will fix this, okay? And this is really common. You add things and you need to tweak a couple of things in your style. I don't know. I need a decent color. I'm gonna try to use gray. Okay, it's bothering me a bit. It's less worse, but that's it. And I will fix these other things here, okay? Like the padding here, it's bothering me because there's none anymore. Let me show you. There you go. It's super, super attached to the very end. So I'm gonna add something to it. So in my nav bar, I'm gonna add some padding X. I'm gonna do this straight. Oh, I'm gonna do with Bootstrap. So you can see that I can have some things, a few things in the Bootstrap and a few things with CSS. Now, there's another thing that I just realized that what's going on is that actually there is a class called Navbar in Bootstrap. So it's being a bit confusing because it's clashing this class with the class from Bootstrap. So all I'm gonna do, actually, I'm gonna change this to my dash navbar just to make sure I'm not gonna change my code. My dash navbar, my dash navbar. There you go. So the style is it's the same as before. And then I will actually get rid of this navbar and I'm gonna use one from Bootstrap, but I will not delete the code so you can have it as a reference. And the second thing is that I want to change the size of this text here because now it looks really small. So I want to go to the intro title, H1, and I'm gonna change the font size to be, I don't know, 60 pixels. Maybe this is too much, no? I actually had one here. Let me remove this. I don't need that. I'm gonna just change it to 50. This is also, it's not. I'm gonna move it from here to here. Sorry. There you go. Now it's a bit better. So I made the changes that I wanted. I'm a bit happier, a bit more happier with this. And maybe an exclamation mark. There you go. So I did the tweaks, everything is working. The first thing I'm going to show is the button to show you the difference. I want to add here at the end, maybe 2 buttons so you can contact me, you know, like get in touch or I don't know, something like this. So the very first thing that I need to create, I'm going to show you a new tag, which is the button. I want to be inside of the About Me section, so I'm gonna add this inside of this div of the About Me. Okay, so after my paragraph, I'm gonna create a button tag. So angle brackets button, angle brackets / button. And I'm gonna say get in touch, touch. And I'm gonna copy and paste the same thing, but this is going to be more info, something like this. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which link is for Bootstrap. You can take a look here in the Bootstrap documentation. these are the two links. The link, this is the tag that you need to copy, this tag, and then this other tag, the script. So these are the only two different tags that you have from this example to this one. So you need to add this and this, the entire line in your project. I can also copy this and send you. Okay, so I do have my buttons, and I'm going to show you how beautiful they look. Look, it's so bad. I swear, it's really, really bad. So this is the default HTML button. So I'm going to style them with Bootstrap. Okay, so let's go back to the buttons. And here we have a few options, right? I'm gonna copy the things that I need for the primary. The first one will be this blue one. So I just need to, well, I can add the type button. It's not mandatory, okay? But you can add, or you can just literally copy the class. But I'm gonna add everything. I'm gonna copy this, go back to my code and add to the first one. And just like that, look the difference. It changes the color when I hover over. Slowly, it's not very like super fast. So it gives a nice user experience. And this is what I'm telling you, that starting with Bootstrap, it's super cool because you understand that you can change yeah, I told you this yesterday, but for example, you can change that you understand that you can change the properties when you hover over an object or you hover over an element or things like this. So that's it. If you want to, you can remove, this is my suggestion, as you learn Bootstrap, remove this class. What happens? What is the difference? So you're gonna see that you still can click, but you don't see the color anymore. So maybe I do want this to be that. And then you can remove and see things changing as you go. And the other one that I'm gonna choose, there is another one, if you scroll down, is this outline here. Just so I don't have them exactly the same, I'm going to copy this outline, but also in the primary color. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it here. Yes, I can send. Give me a second. This is Bootstrap link. Okay, and now you can see that I do have two beautiful buttons in just like literally copying one class. I didn't have to add anything. Let me see if they actually show you the things that are behind the scenes. These are a bit of the things that they changed. They changed the font weight, the line height, the color, the background color, the border width, the border color. When you hover over, you change things as well. So there are a lot of things that was added for us that we don't need to worry about. So this is super cool. What if you didn't want any of those colors? Can you customize via Bootstrap? That's the same thing that I said before. Bootstrap, it's very opinionated. So they choose the colors for you. Yes, it is possible to customize. I'm not going to cover this today. You can check here in the customize, so you can change, for example, what primary color is. So imagine that you create your own color palette for your project, and your primary action, it's, I don't know, a different color. And then your danger color, like a danger action, like deleting things, it's a different color. You can change this. Or you can override some of them with plain CSS. But the option to customize, you can find it, the documentation here. But to begin with, you can use the ones that they have so you can understand things. Can you customize buttons? For example, create a circle instead of a rectangle? No, like I said, same thing. Bootstrap, it's opinionated. It gives you an opinion. It makes a choice for you. It will choose that this is the shape of the button. These are the colors that you can choose. This is the behavior when you move over. You can do this with CSS. I mean, you can create your own circle button. You can create a button class and then use for all of your buttons. You can find, for example, an example of button that you like on CSS online, which is quite cool and common to see. You find an example in CSS, you create with plain CSS, and then you're going to use it. But the idea of using Bootstrap, it's making your life easier because they make the decisions for you, which means it makes it harder for you to change their decision. It is possible. It's not impossible. I'm not saying you can't. You can, but it takes a bit longer. And sometimes it's, I mean, you can also just create your own. Okay, so I do have my buttons. I want to show you some. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to delete from my code. Okay, but I just want to show you one thing about the cards. Let me see. Where is it? Cards. Layout, components, card. This is a card. There you go. I'm just going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to show you here. If I wanted to add a card after this, I don't know, maybe imagine that I have a div for my projects or for the nice things that happen in my city. You could create this, okay, like more sections that I'm showing you. I could have a div and then I could have 1, 2, 3 cards, for example. And I'm just going to change the source of the image. I'm going to use the same one that I'm using here, just to show you. I'm going to paste this, and this. I'm just going to add some source to the image. And if you scroll down, there you go. You have the cards. Obviously, you can put them on the side by side. You would need to use another thing called grid. I can show you in a bit. But this is what you would need to do in order to create a card. It's literally copy the code and paste. Let me just leave one. This is just to show you that you can create multiple cards. This and this. I'm going to delete these two. There you go. Here's your card. And that's it. Maybe you can even add it to the intro section and this would be centralized. If I don't want to use this div, oops, deleted too many things. I don't want, I'm going to cut this and paste it here. I'm doing something wrong. There you go. Wait, I think I have one more closing div. No, that was right. This one, it's closing here. No, wait. This one is closing here. This is this, and this is this. Yeah, there you go. I just added a new one, an extra one. This. There you go. This is what you need to do to create a card. Like that's how easy it is. You can just copy the code. What I actually want to do with you today is changing the navigation bar. And let's see how much time I have. I'm going to focus on the navigation bar, and if I have the time, I'm going to show you something about the grid, okay? So let's go to the nav bar. There's a section called nav bar. It explains you how it works, what do you need, what do you need for responsive, collapsing, and color schemas, and so on. So there are a lot of things. You can also go here to this tab, examples. I'm going to open a new one. This is really, really cool. It will show you, for example, let's say that you want some hero section, which is the intro section. You can see the designs that you can create. And if you hover over, you can see it. And if you right-click the page and go to the inspect, this you can inspect all the HTML code from any page that you open. Just right-click and select the inspect. And here at the elements tab, you can see everything. So when you hover over it, it will highlight on your screen what is the section. that you are working with. So for example, this first one, you can see that it's this one. And you can open, I mean, you cannot copy the code exactly, but you can see exactly the classes being applied and see how they build it. So you could use it as a reference. So in the example sections, you can do this. I'm not going to do this way. This takes a bit longer, but it's just a reference for you. What I want to do actually is to copy, find one nice navbar, and that has the names and I don't know, and a logo, something like this. This one, exactly like this. It has like a brand, like a logo link here. And then all these other buttons, I can remove the ones that I don't want. This is also really common. You just remove the things that you don't want. So can you see that the wrapper, which is the nav container, always start with a class called navbar? And this is exactly what was crashing with my own code, because I also had the class called navbar, and then CSS was confused to, like, in a sense, okay, which one do I consider? So pay attention to this when you want to use them together. So if you want to give more specific names and less generic, for example, my navbar instead of navbar, if you are creating your own custom class, it will be better. So that's precisely what I want. You know what? I'm just going to copy this and go back here. And I'm going to replace my entire navigation bar. I'm going to comment this one out, okay, just so you still have it as a reference. Custom navbar. I'm going to close it here. There you go. So you can still access, but it's not being used. The navbar is gone. And I also am going to copy a few things from it. And I'm going to paste the Bootstrap navbar. All of this. Just paste. There you go. Bam, you have it. It's done. I mean, you just need to tweak things. But it's so cool. This is the feature that I told you that you need JavaScript to make it work. This collapsible menu, this hamburger menu, it will not work if you don't add the script link. I will explain how this is working. But if I make this bigger, I can see the links here. And if I'm in a smaller screen, it will collapse the navbar, so it helps the navigation. So this is what we call responsive design. It will adapt the design according to the size of your screen. Now, the second thing that I need to do, I will explain the things in a second, but I need to tweak because I just copy, and I actually want my previous links to be working here. And the disable one, it's one that you cannot click, if you can see. And all that you need to do, this is something from HTML. You can see that you have area disable and you pass the value of true. This will disable any link you cannot click. So this is one thing that you can learn from the Bootstrap code that you just copy. But the thing is, I don't need this. I'm gonna remove this one. Okay, it's gone. I'm gonna change the values that I have here. I have home, features, pricing. I will use the ones that I had before, and I will tweak the things. So navbar, instead of calling navbar, this should be Belo Horizonte, which is my city. So this is gonna be Belo Horizonte. And for each one of the links, I'm gonna replace with what I had before. I do have 3 links here. The about me, which takes me to the about. So I'm going to replace this. And I also have the href to the first one. So this is the... I could leave the home. It's not a bad idea. Usually we do have a home. Anyway, I'm gonna make this a home. So this is the about me, and this takes you to about me section. And the other one, this is the href and the target blank, which the text is no BH. So I'm gonna replace this one as well. This is no BH. So like I said, there's no problem copy and pasting. You just need to know what you're copying, where you're pasting, what are the things that you need to tweak to make it work. And the last one was just contact. Okay. And this was contact. There you go. Now I have my navbar working better. This should be the current page. That's fine. If you go to No BH still works. If I click the About Me, this is something that I need to change. Give me a second. The ID is just About, so I need to change this as well. I copied the wrong thing. Very good. Also work. So everything worked as before. So I tweaked the things that I needed. Now let's understand how this is happening. What is going on here in our navigation bar? First thing, let me make this smaller so you can actually see it, everything. The first thing that we have is that we have the nav container. Sometimes if you want, you can use this arrow to collapse so you can understand better what's going on. So you have this nav container, and then you have this nav bar expand LG and the BG body tertiary. The BG body tertiary, it's the background color. And the background color of, and also you can see here, and those kind of things. You can remove them and delete and see what happened. Then we have another class called container fluid. This is really important. We have a div inside of this container that says container fluid. Let me show you the container. Okay, this is how they work. So the container, it's a class that you can use for containers. Usually we use in divs that was gonna wrap your section that you can work with. By default, if you just use container, it will give you some space. Let me show you this. It doesn't take the full width. If I remove the container fluid, I just leave it container. Let me see if you're gonna, can you see that now it's taking less space? So it gives you some outer space. And if you want your container to take the full width, you need to use container fluid. This is the container taking the full width, and this is all documented here. Container fluid, which is width 100% at all breakpoints. I will explain breakpoints in a second. Then after this, we have this button, which is what we call the hamburger button, something like this. This is the button here. And it has this property called data BS. You don't need to know this, okay? I'm just explaining you how it works behind the scene. You can just copy and add to your project. That's the beauty of it. You can have a collapsible menu with just copy and pasting the code. But this, you have this nav bar nav. And also in the area controls. And then you have this ID here, which is a div with this ID navbar nav. So they are connected here. The target of this button is this div here. And this div, there is another HTML tags that we haven't seen. There is the UL. It's to create lists. You can have ordered list, and then this would be OL, or you can have unordered list. So we can use UL. And inside of this unordered list, you have three list items. And each one of the list items is a link. So basically, this is how the button is connected to the links that you have here below. So each one of these li with the A inside, it's one of the links that you have on your navigation bar. For the unordered list, you need to pass this class navbar-nav. And to have the navigation item, you can pass this nav item. And in this example, you even have the nav link active. So it was the home before. So it would be the page that you are currently in. So all of this Bootstrap is providing for you. And the good thing about understanding this is that sometimes you're going to want to use this class in a different context, but you know what it does, so you can just use it. It doesn't mean that you're always going to use this active nav link item active in this nav bar. Maybe you want to create something different, but you want to use the nav link. So you can create this list here with the same class. You can reuse the classes if you understand what is the provided result by them. Okay, what else? What else? Questions? Cool. Now, I want to explain something really, really cool, which is the breakpoints. I want to explain you this navbar expand LG here. But for this, I need to show you something called breakpoints. The breakpoints does everything that I told you. They breakpoints are the building blocks of the responsive design, and like I said, it's mobile first, so responsive design is the goal of Bootstrap and so on. The breakpoints are basically saying this sizes, screen sizes smaller than 576 pixels, it's considered the extra small. So this is one breakpoint. Then we have, this is one dimension of one breakpoint. Then we have screens that are greater than 576 and smaller than 768. It's considered small. So we have a breakpoint for small screens. And we have for medium, large, extra large, and extra large. And once you have this, you can decide, I want to apply this class with this breakpoint. So this only happens if I'm in this screen size, when I'm in this specific breakpoint. And if you take a look here in our navbar, we do have this LG here, which is it is a breakpoint that you can see here. This is the class that we need to use, the infix that we need to use for the large screen. So if, for example, I don't want to expand my navbar in the large screen, but I want to expand in the medium screen, I could change this breakpoint. I could change the default example that they gave and make it more meaningful to my project. So let's do this. I can come here and say, hey, I want this to expand because right now it only expands, like I can only see the names here at the top in large screen. So this is a large screen. Now, let's say that I want, let me leave it. I want to expand in a medium screen. So I'm going to change this to MD. And now when I reach the medium screen, I can already see the menu, the navbar. And if I'm in a small screen, it will collapse like this. So this is how you use the breakpoints to create your code on Bootstrap as well. And this is what I said, like try to change things around, understand what that specific class is doing, because obviously sometimes we really want to change things. We want to use a different color for our button, but sometimes you could use the time that you have, use the default button that they have, and then learn other things about CSS and create more things with it. So this is it's one of the features that I find it really, really cool from Bootstrap. I do have a bit of time, so I want to show you one thing. One second. Okay, so let's go here. I want to search something called grid system. That's super cool. This is something that I love it. Okay, the grid system in Bootstrap, it works in a very specific way. To create a grid, like literally create a grid, you could use this grid system that I said that I love it. This is basically, you need to have one thing in mind. You're gonna need a class called row, and then inside of the row, you're gonna create your columns. That's it. The screen in Bootstrap, it's always divided by 12. So imagine a screen with 12 pieces, And it doesn't matter the size of your screen, you always have 12 pieces of screen. So you can either use the default values here, or you can be more specific. Let me show you. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I want to show you something. This. The total of pieces, of fractions of your screen, it's always 12. But when you create a grid with Bootstrap, you can either just divide them, just giving the class col for each one of the columns inside of a row, and they will be divided equally, like this. Or you can say, hey, for the first column, I actually want this column to take 8 out of the 12 available fractions of space. And for the last one, I want to take 4, because I cannot take more than this, because it's always 12. So this is how easy it is. And a nice way to implement this, I'm going to do an example real quick, but a nice way to implement this, I'm just going to copy and replace a bit so you can see what I mean. No. I'm going to copy this example here, and I'm going to paste in our code. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to create a new section here. When you use grid, will the sections collapse automatically when shrinking the screen? You need to use the breakpoints. I'm going to show you. I'm going to give a B background info. Let me see if I can see it. Yes, just so you can see each one of them. It doesn't look good, okay, but just real quick. So we have it here. And they will shrink automatically. They're going to take less space, but they are not being pulled like one underneath the other. For this, you need to be specific. You need to specify the breakpoints for each of the columns, or for the section, for the row. How do you want to handle this? And then you will have some examples of this. If you go down here. So variable with content. So you can take a look here with the breakpoints. So you can also take a look at this in this documentation. So you can decide if, for example, I want now to take just one column to take the full width if the screen is small. And if the screen is medium, I want to take 4 pieces. So that means I can fit 3 columns, for example. The thing that I'm going to show you super quick, I'm going to give some margin between them. So M-2, so they're going to be a bit more separate. I need to do this to all of them. Oh, I just want the margin to be on the right and the left. So there is another option here. So margin. If you take a look here, if you check for the X, if you do MX, it will set the margin for the left and right. So that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to do MX. Yes, so now the height and the width are the same. And I'm going to do the same thing for the others. There you go. So it can breathe a bit more. And to this entire container, I'm going to give some margin bottom 5, because it's super close to the end of it. There you go. So I can see a bit more. But obviously, this div with this written like column, it doesn't make much sense. But this is how easy it is to create the grid. You can also say that for this first column, I guess is this small, this should take 12. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't remember the syntax. Yes, this is it. For small screens, the first one is taking 12 columns. So you could play around with this. But that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is go back to my card component. I'm going to copy this card component again. And instead of having this, just this div colored here, I'm going to replace this with my card. Okay. And I'm going to remove the background info because I don't need this anymore. Okay, so I just had this before to show you. I'm going to remove this and I'm going to change the image to actually have something. So in the SRC, I'm going to replace with this. There you go. So I do have a card now, and I'm going to replace all of the other columns with this. So because I also changed this, I'm going to copy this entire div. Oh, wait, this is hard to see. Indentation, it's not happening. This. I'm going to do this so I can see it better, where things are. This close here. This close that one, which means I need to copy until this one. I'm going to copy this and replace these two divs with the card. And when I do this, I could have, for example, a section. You can centralize them. You can have a section with your project or something like this. Let's make it 2 so you can see it better. Next to. Yes, that's it. There you go. I mean, you already have the card in a grid. You have 2 of them being displayed. You can change this title. You can put some events from a city, for example. My point is you can combine things in Bootstrap. So you take one grid example and then you add one thing to that example. So I'm going to add a card instead of the regular div that they had in the example. So you can create your own things. And this is super cool from Bootstrap because you can start thinking in the design and have some fast results. For example, like this, having the card with that image and a button that goes somewhere because it's a link. So you could redirect the user to elsewhere. And I'm going to stop here because I already did a lot of things and I know this is a bit confusing. But my suggestion is that you play around, also read a bit about the breakpoints and see some examples that they show you. So you can even, for example, if you don't want to mess around with this project and you want to play, open a new code pen just so you can play around with the code that you are copying from Bootstrap. And you can tweak. This is like a perfect playground. You can copy the things from Bootstrap and then manipulate and then change things. And then you say, okay, now it's ready. I can put this on my code or experiment with things, change things, change the colors, change the elements inside it, and this kind of things. And that was it. Questions? Let me send the link again so you can have it. So save. Send you this. There you go. Any questions? After last session, I added position sticky to the navbar. Can I do the same with the navbar in Bootstrap? Probably. I think you just need to add to the navbar that you have in Bootstrap. You go to the CSS and add it. I don't know. We can try it. Let's try. I have a navbar. I honestly have no clue. I never tried this, but we can do it. This is the class. Positions sticky. No. No, I can't, but there is a way to do this. Maybe here. Navbar sticky. Bootstrap, like this. Mm, let's see if they have an option. Placement. Position, fix it to the top. There you go. This is the syntax. Fix it top. So we can come here and say fix it top. And now it's fixed. So you can always Google search for the things that you need and see how you can do it. So it would be like this. I do not understand what is the JavaScript role. It's behind the scene, but this action here of collapsing, it wouldn't work without the JavaScript because Bootstrap has some scripts to collapse things behind the scenes. And actually, one of the things that you can try is that, okay, what happens if I remove the script? What's going to happen? So it doesn't work anymore. You see, I can click, it's not working. It collapses, it opens, but I cannot connect the two things. So there are certain features, certain code that Bootstrap provides you that use JavaScript behind the scene. And to use this, you need to add this script tag. So Bootstrap so you can use the actual code that Bootstrap provides you. More questions? No more questions. Okay, so please post your code on the 3-day code challenge Slack channel. I really want to see what you're gonna create. And feel free to change, feel free to add more sections. The idea of this workshop, it's also to give you the tools so you can create your own things. Obviously, you can copy mine, there's no problem, but you can also create more things, just like I did with this last section here with the cards. You can just, okay, I'm going to create something like that. Okay, what did you write to make the bits of code invalid? If you want to make the code invalid in Bootstrap, like comment code out, this is the syntax in HTML. So it needs to be angle brackets, exclamation mark, dash, 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 angle bracket, everything in between will be ignored. If you want to comment it out code in CSS, you're going to use /*, star // everything in between will be ignored. So each language has its own way. If we get in the course, the class will be like this. The bootcamp, you mean? Well, you're going to learn JavaScript, all the JavaScript bits, but the class is the way we structure the class is you have a content, and then you have one exercise about the content, and then you're going to review the exercise. So it's slightly different because it would be, for example, in the class, we do live codings to explain the concept, the theory that we just taught. So we do a lot of live coding. And then you're going to have one assignment, one exercise. In the following lecture, in the following day, we're going to review that exercise and then teach a new concept. This is for the lecture phase. After half of the bootcamp, you're going to start the project phase, which is literally create project with our support and individual sessions with us, with instructors, and also the teacher assistant, so you can ask for support. And then you're gonna still have some lectures during the project phase, but it's very focused on project creation, so you can have a portfolio. Is CodePen more for practicing learning, or can it create website for using that? No, you can't create a website. I mean, you can as a portfolio, but not as a fully functional page. It's more a playground. If you want to showcase as a portfolio, yes. But let's say you want to create more, I don't know, other things, it's a bit more complicated. You can also use something called Code Sandbox. It's also quite cool. This one. You can actually have a URL that you're going to share. So maybe it's a bit more, but it also requires it's more, the interface, it's more like a code editor. So CodePen does more things in the interface for you. So you need a bit more experience on this, but a quick tutorial could guide you through this. Will you continue to have access to the recordings after Monday? I think so. This is live on YouTube. So you have on YouTube, Code Up YouTube, so you can just access the recordings. And how to add the same image to be the background for two classes. You need to write twice. If it's two different classes, you're going to need to write it twice, unless you're going to give the same class. We just work on two sections, HTML and CSS. Yes, like I said, we have the three foundations of a website, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We focus in this workshop, we focus on HTML and CSS, because with those two things, you can create something that is called static web pages. So you can actually have a web page with just HTML and CSS. But you cannot create a page with just JavaScript, for example. You need HTML. And let's be fair, at this point, you also know that you need CSS because it looks awful without it. In the bootcamp, in Code Up Bootcamp, for example, we're gonna focus a lot in JavaScript. It's focusing like the lecture bits, it's JavaScript. So you're gonna learn from the very basics until some advanced data structures. More questions, keep them coming. Thank you very much. You're a very nice audience and crew. I expect to have more get in touch with you more on Slack. So feel free to ping me if you have any questions or if you want to talk. And please share your projects. I really want to see what you're gonna come up with. And that's it. How to add a color now to the navbar background. You can change the color. I think you would need to remove. Let me see. I'm going to try this. Dot navbar. Let's say that we want to create the background dash color. I'm going to set to red, which is something very absurd and bad. This is not going to work for now because I have enough background color being added here. This and remove this. There you go, it works. It's just because by default, it does have a background color. And if you have two, it will prioritize the one from Bootstrap. So you just need to remove this BG body tertiary, which is this light gray here. The image, text, etc. that we can use, how can we ensure that we're not having copyright problems? That's a good question. You can use some websites that gives you free image use. So you can use Unsplash, for example, that you can use. You can use what is the name? Pexels, I guess. Yes, you can use Pexels. And it's also for free. So just find some free resources online. So make sure you don't have copyright problems. No worries. More questions? Thanks. That's really nice of you. Thank you. Thank you. You're a great student as well. Thanks for joining me those 3 days. I had a lot of fun. I actually tested a few things that either I never tested before or I haven't tested in a while. So this is also part of coding. So don't be scared to actually try things, crash things, Google things. This is one of the best ways of learning, like Google things, discover things, and so on. So yeah, that's it. With the project that we will create in the bootcamp, is it enough to find a job? Well, I got it, but yes. So you create 3 projects in the bootcamp, and the idea is precisely this is why we have a section just for the projects. The main point is to create portfolios so you can land a job after that, and we have a pretty good ratio of people landing jobs after the bootcamp. Will this recording be sent to us? Yes, we're gonna share on Slack the recording as usual. And the same thing for the hashtag for the LinkedIn. Ty, he was here earlier. He's gonna share the link with you on the Slack because I mean, he knows better. So I'm gonna trust his word instead of mine. But we're gonna post it on the Slack channel. Maybe he already did. And you have until Monday to share your code and make the post on LinkedIn and use the hashtag. Thanks. You're so nice. Look, you were great. It was a huge pleasure. I mean, I'm on Slack, so don't be a stranger. If you need anything, just message me. Okay? Cool. Have a great rest of Thursday. Have a great weekend, everyone, and hope to see nice results and also see the posts on LinkedIn. Looking forward to see the winners. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.